Stearns County Commissioners meeting ordered Tuesday, November 4th. First, we'll do the roll. Randy?
Here.
Here.
Here. Okay. Until the end of today.
Oh,
Please stand and join us for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the agenda. No additions, I assume, Mike?
One addition, Mr. Chair, when we get to the jail justice center, we will send some information to the board authorizing the purchase of wetland credits on the site.
Oh, that's what was on our table this morning. Got it. Okay. So with that addition to the agenda, any other discussion?
I'll move the agenda if nobody did.
Nobody did? Okay. Commissioner Notch moves the agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Clark seconds it. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. Then we'll go to the consent agenda, item E. 16 items on the consent agenda.
You know, first of all, the public should know that although we have 16 items on that consent agenda, those are all things we do take a close look at. So I would like to pull number 13 for discussion.
Okay. Commissioner Persky removes item 13. Anything else? If not, the motion would be in order to approve the consent agenda, the 15 items. I'll move that.
I was going to say, I'll move it.
Okay, I'll move it. Commissioner Clark seconds it. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, 15 items, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Those items are approved. And then E13.
Yes, I'm just looking at the flexible work schedule policy. You know, we've had considerable discussion about that. I still don't know if we're to the point of final copy to put that into a document that's going to be our working document. So I'm just wondering about where we might be taking that.
Well, members, and I shared this with Mike, and I just think rather than going through, I mean, I've got all this to go through, rather than doing that for an hour and doing a bunch of votes, and I think everybody knows where everybody's at on this, so going through this and creating more, I guess, confusion, I think it'd be better if we continue it, so we could have a work session specific to this and after our fifth member is seated. But we really need to zero in to what we really haven't zeroed in on. I mean, I know Mike says in his memo that we talked about this 5 times. I guess I would say we've been talked to 3 of those 5 times, I think, but we really haven't been, we didn't dig into the questions. And then now only recently, the last meeting, I saw the actual current policy. I've got a lot of questions on that. So rather than spending an hour today and then doing a bunch of 2-to-2 votes, I'm going to move that we continue it and move it to a work session where we talk on this specifically. Commissioner Clark.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, Commissioner
Okay, I was gonna make a
Notch
different
seconds it.
motion. Okay.
Well, I just like to keep things moving so we
No,
don't.
no, it's
yeah,
just, again, it's a little unusual.
I know.
And with all due respect, it's not usual.
I've been called unusual many times. So.
For ceremonial things, it's one thing, it's a little motion.
So, okay, we've got a motion and a second to continue it to a specific work session.
I have a question.
Yep.
Are you
Commissioner Clark?
tabling it? Because that's, I believe the actual thing is we'd be tabling.
Which one do you want? Somebody smarter than me has to say, do you want to table
Tabling
it or
it till
move it?
after we have a work session.
Either.
Okay, then let's stick with the continuing because that's the motion. So we'll continue it, and Mike thought we could do that sooner than later.
We are contemplating a work session sometime in the next few meetings, certainly before the end of the year. Not quite sure what's going to work, though, and I haven't sent dates out to the board to consider what might work. But either before or after, either before the meeting that we have in the afternoon before TNT or after an upcoming meeting.
And then can we have just this item on that work session, please?
Well, I don't know that we have other reasons to have a work session. Maybe 2 or 3 topics is what we were contemplating.
Okay.
But
Maybe do the more light items first, that we can really dig into this then, please. Okay? So a motion's been made and seconded to continue consent agenda item E13. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the items continue. Next item is administration, federal shutdown impacts. Melissa Huberty.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Melissa here to bring an update on the federal shutdown and how that might be impacting us. And I asked Corey to be here too, in case there might be questions for him about how the shutdown might be affecting veterans' benefits too.
All right, good morning. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Melissa Huberty, I'm the Human Services Administrator, and as Dr. Williams asked, I am going to do a quick update in terms of what's impacting human services, and of course the biggest impact is probably related to SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and yesterday, this is sort of an ongoing, almost everyday update, so as of yesterday, the state issued an update that the federal government will partially fund SNAP for November. Just know that that likely complicates administration significantly for county staff, for all counties in Minnesota. We have 1989 technology, as you all know, and you don't just do partial payments. That usually requires workarounds on county staff, so there's going to be a lot of administration work guessing. We don't know that yet. And just in Stearns County, SNAP funding is typically distributed over a 10-day period, starting today, like on the 4th of each month. Through the 13th of each month, and at this time, counties have no further updates. We have no inkling. We don't know when that funding will actually be available, but typically it starts to be dispersed on the 4th of each month, which would be today. So the typical process, however, is that the USDA sends it to the states. The state sends it to a vendor, which is then automatically put on the EBT cards, and our Public Assistance Division is currently processing applications. We're up to date within guidelines of that. It's just that we're processing and there's no funding going out. So by way of reminder, we have about 12,500 people on SNAP assistance in Stearns County. Approximately 7,000 are adults and 5,500 children. Statewide, it's estimated that about 36% of people on SNAP are children and 18% are seniors. It's important to note that SNAP is a strong economic driver. So for every dollar spent on SNAP, usually local economies at minimum get $1.50 back in return on investment. So as stated before, grocery stores are likely to be impacted, particularly in rural areas when people are not able to have enough money to pay for food. They won't be going to the grocery stores to buy food. And then when people have to choose whether they need to pay this bill or childcare or rent, that you'll start to see pretty quickly rent going unpaid likely, and then other impacts in that way. So there's a lot of downstream effects that do occur. We're also being told to minimize sanctions for federal workers in terms of them paying child support. So it's going to be a double whammy for some of those families where the custodial parent also is not going to receive their child support. So as I said, there's a lot of downstream consequences that are likely to occur. Should it linger into 2026? I've talked previously about Medicaid is likely to be more at risk at that point in time. Medicaid is health care. It has an outsized effect on rural areas. There's a lot of people on Medicaid in rural areas. And this is how rural hospitals and all hospitals and clinics We'll still be serving people, but people will be coming in, and it'll be uncompensated care. Aside from the impacts of SNAP and potentially Medicaid, the longer the shutdown continues, our senior waiver services are likely to start getting impacted. Those are people who are supported in the community with disabilities. Child protection, case management, and foster care reimbursements are all heavily federally funded. So what has happened, as you all have pointed out many times, the laws and the mandates have not changed. It's just that we will still have to do all the work, but there will be no funding for it. Even though federal programs like LIHEAP, which is Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, that's a federally funded program, it is not administered through the county. But what is happening is, because people aren't getting assisted through that federal funding for their home heating at this point in time, there's more requests for people to come for emergency assistance. Just note that we're currently out of emergency assistance funding until January, and we have less than $57,000 remaining in our emergency general assistance funding, and that's depleting rather quickly. So lots of impacts related to the federal government shutdown at this point in time, and we'll see what happens. And it is an evolving situation, so especially on the issue of SNAP, almost every day we get a new update that says we're going to do this, no, we're not going to do that, we're going to do this. It almost always requires a significant amount of staff time. So with that, I'm available for questions, or I can call Corey up if he's here.
Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, Melissa, of course, this is not a good situation. And I would think that people that are in need, a lot of them have family support, extended family or friends that can help them out. But as far as any families or individuals, as far as in emergency situations, you say that emergency funding is depleted? Or pretty
We
much
have two
depleted?
funds for that. One is emergency assistance funding. That's the one that's depleted. And then we have emergency general assistance funding, and we have less than $57,000 left in that, and it's depleting rather quickly.
Okay, so there is a little bit of bare bones left.
Correct.
Okay, which is good. And then also, as far as directing people perhaps to the food shelves, do we have a network that we can tell folks, where they might be able to get some assistance?
Yes, actually, you can almost Google this, and it's all over the place.
Yeah,
Like, there are many, many lists out there, and I think we were going to try to put something on the website, our website as well, for food shelves. And we do recommend if people the faith-based communities are definitely engaged. That is a good place to go as well, and to engage with faith-based community.
Right, and I was just wondering if they've reached out to us saying that we have things available.
I am not aware of people really raising their hand, because there's so much need out there that everybody's getting inundated. Like, churches definitely know that
Absolutely.
there is a problem going on.
Okay.
So there's a lot of requests out there. So we're just trying to work together. Yesterday afternoon, also, Lori Putnam, the superintendent of District 742, had reached out at the end of last week. There's a group together trying to make sure we're all on the same page there. So there's a lot of coordination going on with it. And a lot of human need.
Good. Well, thank you. We'll hopefully get through this crisis.
Yeah, thank you. And just one last comment, I would just make a quick point. We do know that every time in history when public assistance has been disrupted or reduced, we do see an increase in child protection reports about 9 to 10 months later. And we are likely to see an increase, so in the deep end services, when kids go to school hungry, we have reports coming in, and we will have those reports coming in. And the longer this lasts, the more likely we're going to be into those deep end services with child welfare as well. So, thank you.
Commissioner Clark has a question, but before that, because you talked about your website, I'm curious, do we put something on the website linking them to career solutions, for employment, that they can get jobs? There's a lot of openings, and, in this period, if they can't get the benefits, can we get them a job that they can start becoming self-sufficient, or do we connect them with career solutions, with job opportunities and education, things like that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We still do a lot of that work. Just know that in Stearns County, most people on public assistance are employed already. If they're not employed, they have an exclusion, and they have an exclusion because they're either a senior, a child, or somebody with a disability. So nearly everybody's employed, they're just underemployed and can't afford childcare, rent, heat, transportation. It's just that, as with inflation, that costs a lot of money, as we all know. So most people are already employed, but we also do a lot of work with our folks in Career Solutions and our grants with the VBO to try to make sure people do get employed.
and I didn't state that, but I meant like increase in their employment, with additional training, things like that. They could get a better job, a more high-paying job, whatever. But right now, we need all hands on deck.
Correct.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes, thank you. So since we talked near the end of last week, that fund, the emergency general assistance, has been depleted even further. And I know that there are several counties that have already been reluctantly, which we would be reluctantly because the feds should be resolving the situation and people should be able to get the additional assistance for which they need. But at some point, we may need to look at what we did during the pandemic, which was add some money to emergency general assistance. It looks like, for the moment, the food part of it probably isn't. Having talked with Catholic Charities a couple different times, they took on doing Meals on Wheels for seniors after Centricare stopped, St. Cloud, after Centricare stopped doing that in September, which was a very big lift for them. They're used to 3 to 5 days or so of additional food assistance, not a whole month, and even for them administratively, among other things, it's going to be tough. So I guess, putting that pitch out for folks to be donating there, but also recognizing, they usually have people come, they're open like 3 days a week for most people, 1 day a week specifically for seniors. They restock, like they're not going to have time. So, and Joe, I know you do help at the food shelves too, so I want to thank you for that, but talk about all hands on deck. So one, I guess, you'll come back to us with a recommendation if it looks like there's something else we need to do. And then, just from our grocery stores and our fuel vendors, there's a lot of concern here in addition to the human beings, our seniors, our kids, our families that are impacted by this. SNAP benefits not getting into our grocery stores. And if you're using propane or oil right now, and I know we don't do LIHEAP, but if you're using it, and the cold weather rule doesn't protect them. So it's really a challenge right now. So I don't know what else, that's the reason why I'm asking about coming back if we need to with some additional funds for emergency general assistance if we get that far. Recognizing our communities, our congregations are very generous, but it's not a very efficient way that we're trying to do this right now.
Well, it's unfortunate, Commissioner, it's unfortunate that the federal government and state government, we keep becoming victims as a county government, and then, of course, our residents become victims. We need to stay in our lane. They need to do their job. We need to do our job. I would hope that we wouldn't come to a point where we have to start subsidizing those programs because they're not doing their job. We're already at a 5.2% levy increase for next year. We start doing that, next year's levy, I can't imagine what that's going to look like. They need to do their job. And the only way that's going to really happen is if people really put the pressure on those elected officials for them to do their job, because this is getting a little sickening, I guess, to say the least.
And Mr. Chair, I certainly
Commissioner
agree
Clark.
with that. I mean, I think I've done a pretty broken record about both the feds and the state and what they're trying to do to our people. Now we've got it just coming all different ways. So Congress, this is what, day 35, tomorrow will be the longest. Maybe they'll decide that that's long enough and they'll get back to the table and make sure that Minnesotans can get the services for which, frankly, they're entitled to.
It would be easier if we could pinpoint one person and hold that one person
Absolutely.
accountable, but this truly is everybody.
It is.
I
It's
mean,
everybody.
you look across the line and it's always easy to discipline a child or somebody if you have to, but if it's obvious who's the fault, but everybody is the fault, so you can't discipline everybody. Well, I guess you can, but the public needs to do that, so. Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, it would be unfortunate if we would deplete that 50,000 for needy people. So, Mike, is there any coins left in the ARPA fund at all? So if we do deplete that, if this continues, I think maybe that would be an option for us.
And Mr. Chair, to that point, I mean.
Commissioner Clark?
If we have, if, hope we don't,
Let's,
if, but hope's not a great strategy sometimes. it would be one time, because we all care deeply about trying to keep our levy down, and, right, this is just people getting hit in all directions.
Right, and again, I'd be very concerned about going down that path prior to what we need to, because again, do your jobs. You know, we've got to protect our role, in my opinion, but we'll talk about it if we have to. Anything else from Melissa? Commissioner
I
Bristol?
was just going to say, and you know what, we've got some great people out there in the community too that might be stepping forward, donating some funds across the areas. So, yeah, let's be hopeful.
I do want to thank all staff, because again, this doesn't just affect the 36% that are on benefits. It affects the rest of the population. It affects every department in this county, because the ripple effect of that, people feel the stress here, and that carries over to environmental services and veteran services and emergency services. So I want to commend all staff for working through this, because people see us as government, and they blame government, because government is at fault, federal and state to many degrees. So I commend all staff, and I'm sure we've got policies on that, but if you're sitting down in person with a person trying to figure this out, and you reach across the table and hold their hand, God bless you. Because what people need more than ever is knowing that people do care, but we can't solve everybody's problems. I mean, we just got to do the best we can and be there for people, and help them sort through that. So, okay, nothing else. Thank you, and we'll go on to the next item. Auditor Treasurer Randy and Mark for tax forfeiture.
Yeah, I have Mark Iverson and Alec Bussey here today to go over the tax forfeiture. I'm an update, and we're in a new process now with the lawsuit that was in Hennepin County and the law that passed. So they'll go over that, and we have an auction coming up, and we'll talk about that.
During the meeting? Are we going to have the auction during the meeting? We should do that sometime. That would be fun. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mark Iverson, Land Records Coordinator.
Alex Spicey, Land Records Specialist.
And today we're going to give you a kind of a high-level update on tax forfeiture, on where we're at. As you recall, tax forfeiture was kind of put on hold for a while the Tyler versus Hennepin lawsuit took place and went to the Supreme Court. So where we're at now is we're gonna give you kind of a tax forfeiture time periods, kind of go through some of those, discuss how we work with our, as we were just saying, Chair Bertram, working with property owners. We go above and beyond to work with property owners to try to avoid tax forfeiture in the first place. And then we're going to also talk about settlement sales and some of the new forfeiture sales and go through some of the nuance between those. So when we're talking about tax forfeiture, following that lawsuit, there's really three buckets that we're going to be looking at now. We have legacy sales, which are properties that went to tax forfeiture in 2015 and before. Then we have our settlement sales, which were the result of the Tyler versus Hennepin lawsuit. Those are properties that forfeited in 2016 to 2023. Now we also have our new tax forfeitures that occurred January 1st of 2024 and forward. So we have three different buckets where there's different properties in, and each kind of have some different rules that go along with them that we have to follow. So that's just kind of, we're going to get into that more towards the end, but just to kind of keep your minds going, there are three different kind of buckets that we're looking at for tax forfeiture. So number one, property owners. We work extensively with property owners to try to avoid tax forfeiture. We do not want tax forfeited properties. I always say if I wanted to be selling properties, I would have been a realtor. So, but we work extensively with people. We send delinquent tax letters. Prior to forfeiture, we send out something called the Notice of Expiration of Redemption, which is kind of a final warning, and that's sent by first-class mail, certified mail. It's published in the paper, And then finally, there's a sheriff's deputy that will actually deliver the notice to the property. We work with the cities and the townships to make them aware of pending forfeitures. We send out additional courtesy letters to people. We send them certified letter and first-class mail, because sometimes when there's certified mail, people don't pick it up. It comes back as unclaimed. But we also send it first-class mail, and if it doesn't come back to us, then we know they received it. We also stop at properties. We look for additional financial resources for people. So if someone does, when they do reach out to us and ask, we do try to find other resources to help them to assist in paying their taxes, and times have gotten harder, and so it's harder to find those dollars. And then lastly, if possible, we'll try to find family members or relatives. We don't know what's going on in each individual situation, so we'll try to find assistance. It's hard in a county this size, but we do take a lot of extra steps to just flat out avoid tax forfeiture. We want people keeping their property. So just as a kind of give a few examples of that, we have two examples here. The first one is a commercial business in Bruton, and I'm going to let Alex kind of give you an update on that.
Yeah, so this was one of the properties we had. It was out in the west side of Stearns County out in Bruton. And each year I go around to look at the properties to see, are they occupied? Are they dilapidated? Are they currently living in, or anything like that? So I went around with this one. I stopped into the city office there and talked to the city just to see, because I haven't heard anything from this property, and it was a business, and we just kind of wanted to see what was going on and whatnot. So I talked to the city. They gave me the lowdown on that. And then they mentioned that the owner was actually there that day on the business. So then I walked over across the street, talked to the owner, got some information on that, and then eventually we ended up getting the property taxes paid on that. But I just want to touch on, that was a business. When we go around to residential properties, we don't typically stop there on our own just for safety reasons and things like that. This was a business, so we stopped in, talked to them. They got paid up. The business was allowed to stay open. We didn't forfeit and avoided that. We had one other one that was out in Melrose Township. This one, we probably worked with the owner for probably over a year. Before it forfeited, we tried multiple calls, tried to get them to come into the office, tried to get them to do a repurchase agreement, because this was a farm site that was worth quite a bit of money, and for what it was worth and what they owed was a big difference. So we tried very hard to work with them to come in. We finally got them to come into the office, got them to do a repurchase, to repurchase the property back on a payment contract. Well, then the payment contract ended up falling through. So then we were going to have to work on an eviction and kind of work on getting the property back into the state's name and going through that process. We could not get a hold of the individual. We were running out of options there, and that's where finally we reached out to Commissioner Notch, and he was able to help us get a hold of some family members and get a hold of them and get the property repurchased, paid in full, and now it's back into their name and completely paid up and deeded back to themselves.
So that's just a few examples of some properties, because we do really want people to know that we do work with people. They need to contact us. They need to be in touch when they get those letters, because the sooner we try to work with them on the front end, we can save a lot of issues down on the back end of it. But so we do have success with keeping people in their properties. So unfortunately, when properties do forfeit, now we have to go to a tax forfeiture sale. And there's those three different buckets. They each have different rules. We're going to focus more on the settlement sales and the new property sales. So the settlement sales, bucket 2, those are properties that remained in inventory from June of 2016 through December 31st of 2023, that from a settlement with the state of Minnesota, we are obligated to make a good faith effort to sell those properties. So a few weeks back, you set the minimum sale price, minimum bid price for properties. Those are the settlement properties that we are going to be putting on auction, and that's going to be the minimum starting bid. So we have to make a good faith effort now through 2029 to sell those properties. And any of the proceeds that we get from that sale, for the beginning part, 75% goes to the state of Minnesota, and that's to help recover the costs, because the state of Minnesota put about $109 million out to pay any kind of settlement claims, and then 25% stays with the county. So that's bucket one. Bucket two, or the last one we're going to talk about are the newly forfeited properties or the new property sales. Those are forfeitures that occurred from January 1st of 2024 and going forward. So this is our new legislation. We are obligated to sell those properties within 6 months. So from the time of forfeiture, we have a process, and I'm going to kind of briefly go over that, but we have 6 months to try to sell that property. And the first sale, so we have to have 2 sales within those first 6 months. The first sale is what's called the estimated market value sale, and we have to offer that at the most recently assessed value. So no longer are we going to be coming to you to set a sale price for those. We have to try to sell it first for starting off at the minimum, the estimated market value, and we can't sell it for less than that for 30 days. After 30 days, if the property remains unsold, now we auction it again, sale number 2, and that is for a minimum bid price. So for a minimum bid price, think about debt against the property. So that is the sum of delinquent taxes, special assessments, penalty, interest, and cost. So that's going to be the new starting minimum bid for the second auction. If there's surplus, so if something sells for above the minimum bid price, now we have a claims process we have to work through, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So we're kind of moving, we have to track 2 different kinds of properties as we go through these sales. So the settlement properties, again, the county board established those minimum bid prices on October 21st. There were 7 properties. These are properties that remained in inventory from 2016 through 2023. They were small properties, outlots, kind of less desirable properties, but we have to make an effort to sell those. And each December 31st, by December 31st of each year, we have to give a report to the state of Minnesota on efforts we took to sell it, if we sold them, what the price was, and if there's any, we have to report any dollars, and any excess dollars we have to send to the state of Minnesota. So we have to make a good faith effort to sell those properties every year through 2029. Okay, new forfeiture properties. Properties that occurred, that transferred or forfeited January 1st, 2024 and after. Again, we have those 2 sales we have to try within the first 6 months. An individual, if that property is forfeited, they have the ability to repurchase that property up until the time of the sale, and their repurchase price is essentially for all the debt against the property. There's no longer doing any kind of contracts with people. If they want to repurchase it, they have to pay cash. So they have to have all the funds to repurchase that contract, and that's part of the legislation. So before we could do repurchase contracts, now they have to have the cash to rebuy it. Again, we've already talked about sale 1 being at the estimated market value. We can't sell it for less than that for 30 days. Sale 2 is the debt against the property, and that's the minimum bid price of the delinquent taxes, special assessments, penalties, interest. So these first sales are there to determine if there's any kind of surplus equity in that property, because the Tyler versus Hennepin was about the taking of equity. So these first sales are there to determine if there's equity above what was owed, and then if there is equity, now we have to go through a claims process. If there isn't equity, we go back to how we used to sell it, bucket 1, where the county board we can do reclassifications and we can set some different sales. Okay, so we have lots of different moving parts. So the new claims process is if there's a new claims process if surplus equity exists. One thing I want to point out here is if we have something like that, property owners really just need to work with the county. There's no question about what it sold for and what was due, so the equity is pretty clear of what's there. But there are third-party companies out there trying to make a dollar that are reaching out to properties owners that sold to say, we will help you get your surplus equity and we'll take a cut. There's no reason for people to do that unless they really want to have someone help them with it, but we are here to help them, and we will help. We have to send claims forms out.
Commissioner Persky has a question.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask later on. Are there predatory folks that are looking at these things that maybe see an opportunity to take advantage of folks, and the property owners should be aware of that?
Absolutely. We have not had that here, but we were at a recent meeting, and other counties have indicated that there are companies that are reaching out. And let's say there's an equity claim of $10,000, maybe for $3,000, they'll help them out. So now they're going to take those dollars, and the person would get a smaller amount. So again, people need to be in touch with us before forfeiture, and even after there's a process, they just need to be in touch with us. We will work with them.
And then
Commissioner
likewise,
Persky.
when people are looking at avoiding that forfeiture and doing the payout on fees that are owned, can they get a private loan against the property and then pay that off cash? And we have no knowledge of them having that loan, but they paid the debt off, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, they can work with the bank, whatever funding source they have. We also have something called a confession of judgment that a person can do that allows them a payment time to pay off. But again, the main point is they need to be in touch. They need to talk with us. So again, any properties that remain unsold after 6 months, they are held in trust by the state of Minnesota, and we go back to the old forfeiture ways where we can reclassify them. We set a minimum bid price. Now townships and cities can have the ability for blight purposes, they can get them. So once they don't sell for 6 months, now we know there's no equity. It's held by the state. It's more complex. There's a lot more moving parts with this process, and there's uncertainty about our ability to recover certain costs for doing tax forfeiture. So this is just kind of a flow chart. It's a little bit confusing when you don't work with it, but just kind of gives you an illustration of what our tax forfeiture process looks like from a sale perspective. Starting off, when the time it forfeits, we essentially have 30 days. We notify the DNR if they're interested in the property. If there's a DNR interest, they have to go through a condemnation process now to get the property, so they can no longer just request it being withheld. We have to do a publication of the sale within 30 days of the sale price, and within 60 days, we have to have 2 sales. Or within 6 months, excuse me, we have to have those 2 sales. If the property is sold and there's equity, we drop down to the claims process. So 60 days after a sale, we have to send notice to the parties that, yes, there was a surplus equity available. If we don't hear back from them, after another 30 days, we have to send them another letter saying, hey, there's a claim, here's a claim form if you'd like to make a request for this. So there may be multiple people who make a claim for surplus equity. If that happens, there's a court process where we can turn it over to the court. We can let a court decide who's eligible to receive surplus. If there's one claim, we can make that payment to that individual. So something new we're going to try this year because of the new process is statute allows for online auctions. So I'll let Alex kind of go into the public surplus online auction, but we are using a vendor called Public Surplus, and Public Surplus is AMC. They are in a partnership with AMC, so it's kind of a preferred vendor for AMC. And it's going to allow us to better control the time frame for auctions, and I'll let Alex give a little more information on that.
Yeah, so we went out and looked at 2, 3, or 4 different online auction providers. This was the one that we kind of thought that fit best our needs. It only is government agencies that can use this website, and it's for anything from real estate all the way up to schools selling workout equipment and things like that. So what we found best about this was that there are many different ways that they can view the properties and the capabilities that we have on our end. So we already have most of the auction stuff already prepared, ready to go on our end, and can view all that. And this is just a screenshot of what one of the properties looks like that would be on there once it gets released. We have our terms and conditions on there. The way to place a bid is up in the top right. You can attach many documents for any type of terms and conditions. Other than that, any other supplement documents that we get. And you can set a viewing period, and you can set the certain amount of days for how we want that auction to be listed. And then once the auction closes, an email will get sent out to the winning bidders, and then we contact and collect payment through them and work on it our end. And then there is a through AMC and Public Surplus, they do a 5% buyer's premium on whatever that sale price is. And so that's what goes to them for that. And with this, I mean, anybody can bid 24/7 a day. We don't have to lock down our schedules, the building, things like that. So we just think it's a better opportunity for us and for individuals to bid on the properties and just get a larger exposure on our properties that way. So on this new one that we have coming up at the end of November, we have 6 properties that are going to be under that new forfeiture bucket there. So they're starting at that estimated market value on whatever the assessor had for the most recent estimated market value for that year. If it doesn't go for there, then we lower it again, like we mentioned previously, to that minimum bid. I just have some statistics on there from the last few years. Typically, we start the year, when I just begin at the very beginning of the year, starting my list, it's usually around 40 or 50 properties that are on the very beginning. And then we order an O&E from the title company and get sending our notices out. And that dwindles down some from either people that have paid off, got on a confession of judgment, or things like that. And then typically at the end, we are forfeiting on less than 10 properties. You can see there it's been 5 and 6 the last few years, and then only 4 in 2024. So, and I know back in 2011 and 12, we had upwards on 200 properties back at that time. But I think that was all a result from when we went through the recession in 2008, and then that was a conflict of that. So it's always going to ebb and flow based on how that goes.
So when you look at our county where we have 70,000 parcels, you know, when you start with that expiration of redemption and you're in the 50s, we get it down to 4, 5, 6, that's really pretty good. I mean, that's something we should really be proud of, that we get down to that few properties.
And these are just a couple screenshots on 4 of the 6 properties that are under that new bucket that we have coming up here towards the end of November. 2 of them are platted lots up on the corner there on Pleasant Lake. It's mostly under wetlands. We don't believe it's going to be probably buildable because there is wetlands there, but that comes down to environmental services and cities and townships for that. Another one we have is up on, kind of up by Sam's Club up there on Highway 15 and County Road 120. Small little platted lot in between the development back there, and then I can't recall the name of that trailer park right there. And then on the east side of Big Lake, again under wetlands and on the lake, but we did get approval from the DNR to sell that property.
Not to interrupt you, but when you said that wetlands, Shelley smiled, so the answer is probably going to be no. She can already tell you that. I couldn't help but take advantage of that.
Yeah, and we, prior to any sale, we do reach out to environmental services, and they review, we'll make that information available to property owners, what exists, if there's any issues with the property, too. So we like to give as much disclosure as we possibly have available to property owners before they bid. So there's a few considerations here for you to think about here, is cleanup costs may require levy dollars in the future. Because of the concern over taking equity, there could be challenges in the future on if counties put in any kind of excessive costs into a property prior to selling it, that could be challenged. So there may be levy dollars that may have to come into play for cleanup. This is something that AMC may want to work on with the legislature to try to clean up that legislation to allow for, to take some of the burden off.
So I know
Randy?
this is in the AMC legislative agenda, and originally when it was proposed, they talked about blighted properties and stuff, but it doesn't have to be a blighted property for us to have costs that might hit our levy. So it really should be any sort of help, and we're hoping that they develop some way to have a fund that gets some sort of funding mechanism to help pay for these. If, for instance, we might have to take down a house, which we have recently, right? So that's a cost that you're probably not going to recover. So it'd be good to have a fund to recover those costs. Otherwise, it's levy dollars, right? In the short term, we're going to be fine in the county because we have money put aside for this, but in the future, that'll be more trouble
Yeah, and also just consider it's tax forfeiture administration is more complex now because we have lots of different properties. We have a lot of moving timelines that we're following. We have a lot of different claims processes. So we're constantly juggling multiple timelines. And there's also concerns that maybe a county will just say, or a property owner will say, well, I'm just going to let the county sell it and I'll take the equity. So that is a concern that we have, that instead of paying and trying to sell it prior to going to forfeiture, which by all means they should, if someone is at that point, they can't transfer title without having the delinquent taxes paid, but it's in their best interest to maybe do that on their own before it comes through us. But there's a concern that someone will just sit back and say, let the county sell it and we'll get whatever's left. And then pre-sale considerations we have to think about on what's allowable for evictions. Are we going to do any kind of cleanouts, anything like that? Any kind of open houses? Well, anything adds costs and we don't know what's going to happen with that. So kind of our final slide here is just some information about the auction. We're going to have the properties available for viewing online on November 25th. And the bidding is going to start on Friday, November 28th at 10 a.m. So there's a few days there where people can go in, and since it is new, gives them a few days to go and get registered and kind of figure out the site before the actual auction begins. And then the first bid for that first one at the EMV value will close on December 16th at 12 p.m. And if they don't sell, they still have those 30 days where we can't sell it for less than the estimated market value. But as with auctions, most of the bidding occurs towards the end. So we're putting it out there for a few weeks and allowing people to get in there and bid away. We have the web link there to where people can go to publicsurplus.com and where they can register. We have the auction site is also there. On our tax forfeiture website for the county auditor's office, we have that also there where we have links to get to this information and to get to property or to get to public surplus. And then remaining unsold properties, we're going to be re-auctioned starting December 30th at 10 a.m. and that'll be the minimum bid price, that debt against the property. So if they don't sell in sale 1, sale 2 will begin December 30th at 10 a.m. And again, that's the debt against the property. So the starting bid, if the estimated market value is high and the minimum bid is lower, the second sale, the starting bid will start considerably lower. So just people to be aware. And with that, if there's any questions, we're happy to answer.
Got a few of them, so thank you. Alex gets the award for being the first one at the meeting this morning. So I don't think there's a check or an award, but good for you. The 70,000 properties, that's what I was going to ask. So I mean, again, big scheme, we got 69,996 or 4 properties that are paying the taxes, and so that is the good news. And I've been impressed over the last 3 years of the amount of work that your team does to make sure to try to vet all this. It's unfortunate. I can't imagine. I mean, do we have any idea how much this ends up costing per property or per year? It's got to be a lot of money. The time and the steps, and so we certainly. You're not doing this to take advantage of a situation. I mean, we don't want the property. I mean, obviously. So, and in the same token, you don't want to just take the property, but this didn't happen overnight. I mean, this is it 6 years delinquent taxes?
Nope. So if you had property that, let's say 2025 taxes, if they become delinquent in 26, so you have 26, 27, 28, and they would sell in 2029. So it's essentially like 4 years.
4 years. Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Needed more caffeine. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think just to reiterate for the public too, the way we got here, we had a really good process before was because of the United States Supreme Court, and I think there's been a lot of efforts with the legislature to try to thread that needle, and it's good that the legislature made sure they passed funding, because otherwise it could have been disastrous for our property taxpayers. But, trying to figure out, and I know that you all are working on this, how to give the process that's due to the property owner abiding by that Supreme Court decision, and yet recommending changes to make this less clunky and less expensive. It's got to be hard. I mean, so As you said at the beginning, Randy, AMC does have something in there, but are there things we can actually do that we'd want the public to know to try to bring the cost down of this and the clunkiness while we're obeying what the Supreme Court mandated?
Yeah, Mark and myself was on staff and we've done some press releases on this. So certainly, yeah, we're trying to keep costs down. You know, what will happen is some property will need to be cleaned up. That'll cost more than the property's worth. We've seen that. And in the past, you know, there's properties we made money on and those would pay for those that we didn't. So, you know, in the short term, we have some money set aside to do that, but eventually that's gonna run out. And then it's gonna be a decision, right, to use levy dollars to fund that cleanup. And the cleanup, the neighbors are gonna want it cleaned up, right? We've seen that. The house is trashed or the property is not in good shape. I know Shelley worked with people to try to get it cleaned up, but if that's not successful, then we get it. That's our headache, right? So I want to make sure when AMC is, you know, trying to get legislation for this, that they don't get too narrow, right? This could be a property in the middle of St. Cloud, right? So any property that's going to cost more than the proceeds, we need to find a funding source
Commissioner Klein?
Yeah, and just, I would like to echo what you had said, to really appreciate the work of the team. I mean, this is complicated. I know personally from some of the properties that are within the St. Cloud area itself, the amount of work that you've done in addition to some of the places in a more rural settings, so thank you.
for. And you know, when we get one in the county, we do try to talk to the commissioner, and Steve's been able to help, and we'll reach out to each one of you when there's a property in your area and any help we can get, right? Sometimes it's just finding that relative, because sometimes economically it doesn't make sense for that property to forfeit. There's more value than what's owed on it, so we don't want that, right?
If you want to make money on this, get me to participate in the auction, because when I'm at an auction, if I bid on something, I don't quit until I get it. So maybe Commissioner Notch and I can bid up some of these properties, because I'll bid as high as I have to beat them on it. So I did have a couple other questions. The 5% auction that the auction house gets, is that taken out of the equity, or that, you know, what the property owner would get?
No, that's an additional fee that is collected by public surplus.
Got it.
So bidders will pay an additional 5%, and that is basically what they take for operating their site and for all their site development and things like that.
So the
That comes out of
bidder
the
pays that.
proceeds before we even see it.
Got it.
Yep.
And then if it doesn't sell, I assume they don't get the 5%, obviously.
Correct.
Got it. And then the public listing, when you see all the names in the paper, that's
That's the first year
the
delinquent.
preliminary,
Yep.
and then notice that people
Yeah, and
made a
that's,
mistake, or they kind of do that, and they work
Yeah.
through. Because some of the names are familiar names every year.
right, and it's the start of the process, the legal requirement, and that's where the 3-year forfeiture or delinquency timeline starts, so.
That's an old person thing when you go through every name to
Yeah.
see what properties there are. I guess I'm there. And then the DNR, do they pay property taxes if they acquire the property?
If the DNR were to acquire a property now, of course, they'd have to go through a condemnation process. The short answer is no. They would likely be an exempt property, but they would pay PILT, payment in lieu of tax.
Which is nothing. I mean, so that's part of the people, the predatory buyers, or whatever you want to call them, actually, at the end of the day, that's better than having to clean them up, better than giving it to the DNR, in my opinion. So people do buy these that are in the contracting world, that think they can renovate the property and sell it for a value, and at the end of the day, really, it's not a bad thing for us.
No, so the DNR would, if they were to acquire it, they would pay the value that would be determined through the condemnation process. But it is, again, we would be able to recover the delinquent costs and everything like that. Surplus then would go to the new property owners, or to the previous property owners. And PILT, they do make that PILT payment every year. So they do make a payment to us in lieu of taxes. But
And again, this is a societal thing. I mean, obviously, growing up, you paid your property taxes, you paid your health insurance, you paid your utilities, before you went out on Friday night and before you got free cell phones and went to the liquor store every other day. I mean, it's a societal thing. I mean, you paid your property taxes. And, my grandfather said one day people are going to be taxed off their land. Well, in some cases, it's kind of happening, but these, in my opinion, these cases are not that. But again, that's another incentive for us to reach for Commissioner Notch's 2% levy next year to make sure that the property taxes are low enough that we don't tax people off their land. But some of these situations aren't that situation.
No, and we, with the Treasury, we work in, harmony with the Treasury office too, and they work with people extensively to try to set up payment plans and to help people get them going in the right direction. We try to interact with people on the first year delinquents to get them caught up sooner so that we don't have a bigger problem 3-4 years later. But, everybody has a different situation. There's healthcare issues that come up, there's everything, and we don't judge, we work with everybody on the same level. You're in a current situation, let's see what we can do to get you going and get you back on track. But every single forfeiture, there's a unique situation for it.
Kevin wanted us to know that the team is working on the steps evidently at the courthouse, so they made a little extra noise. Commissioner Persky.
Yeah. Say, these are obviously handled by Stearns County, the forfeiture tax. However, these taxes are actually due to the school district. They're also due to the city. The city does not do any of the forfeiture sales. It's all controlled by the counties, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then as far as the payout, then if it's less than the taxes that are there, does the county get their share first, or do we prorate it?
Well, that would be, assuming it didn't sell for sale 1 or sale 2, and then we got it, and we could reclassify, and we would set that price. We would then, there's a settlement process that's set out by statute where we can recover costs, and then there's a payout that's already set by statute who gets what. First it goes for, we would take costs, and then it goes towards any special assessments that we do.
Sure. And then the last thing, as far as value, you mentioned the market value. Do we have an independent appraiser come in and do that, or how do we determine that market value?
We are using the assessed market value, the most recently assessed market value.
Which typically is low. The assessed price would be higher than what the property tax general.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's being very
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
And we don't want to incur that extra cost, and property can get bid up, right? So,
Sure.
But the assessor's office, they work to be within 90 to 100% of market value, so they are making adjustments to it, but there are times where maybe they haven't seen the property in a couple of years, and there's been, some depreciation of the property, so those things all do kind of fall into place, but it's the rules we now get to live with.
Commissioner Notch.
I was just going to say, I appreciate you have a good handle on it.
We'll have to budget for a new water pitcher. Commissioner Notch broke the water pitcher.
At least it didn't fall on the floor.
Yeah, and again, 6 properties, 70,000. I mean, that's, if you answered it, I forgot it already because we've been talking so long, but how much do you average the cost of just, and if you don't know the answer, I'm just curious, is it 25,000, 30,000?
I would say it's probably 50,000 range, when you time and look at staff time and all the other publication and everything, pretty rough number, I think.
And again, that's why it's best
Yeah.
not to get them here.
Yep.
For everybody, okay? This was informational only. Anybody have any other questions? Otherwise, thank you for your work, and good luck.
Thank you.
Look for Commissioner Notch and I to be on that auction. The next item is appointment of the Sauk River Watershed District Board Member. Randy,
And
Sierra?
Sierra will cover this.
Yes, good morning. I know Commissioner Bertram and Commissioner Notch already know, but Michael Prohl resigned from the Sauk River Watershed District Board of Managers on September 16th. So we advertised for this position for about a month, and we only received one applicant, who is John Folkedahl of District 3. So at this point, the board can either make a motion to appoint John Folkedahl to the Sauk River Watershed District Board of Managers, or we can continue to advertise for this position. Just a reminder that the Sauk River Watershed District does go through all 5 commissioner districts.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the appointment.
Second.
Commissioner Notch moves the appointment of John, and Commissioner Clark seconds it. I did meet with him. He's got a good background, and he's excited to serve, so hopefully that's a positive for everybody. Any further discussion? Otherwise, motions are made and second to appoint John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Passes. And I assume he'll be brought on immediately.
He will.
Because there's been a void there for a while, so. And I assume that there is some kind of an orientation, I don't know if Randy or Steve, they orientate the new board member on,
Yeah, John from the Watershed would.
That'd be up to the Watershed to do it, yeah.
Because I know he's asked about that, and I said, well, I certainly would assume they have an orientation process, so the sooner that would happen, the better, probably. Next item is Parks, Ben Anderson.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Ben Anderson, Parks Director. The agenda item I have for your consideration this morning is agenda item H, can be found on packet pages 254 through 258, and it's again considering approving entering into a joint powers agreement with Wright County for the care and maintenance of Fairhaven Mill County Park. So this is a unique situation in which Wright County actually owns property within Stearns County. 5-acre parcel that's located on Lake Maria and Lake Louisa on the southeast side of the county. This has been an ongoing partnership for about 46 years. In 1985, Stearns County actually voted to disband the JPA at that time because the goal of it was to restore the mill, and there was actually a foundation that had come about that had taken on that. So since 1985, neither Stearns nor Wright County could find any sort of written documentation. It has just been kind of an agreement from the board that Wright County paid for half of the maintenance and operations, and Stearns County paid for half of the maintenance and operations. So Wright County and myself, the 2 parks departments, got together to put together an agreement on basically what's been going on for the last 46 years, but to put it into writing for future operations. And with that, I'll take questions.
No, I was shocked to find this out until it was on the agenda. I never knew that. Obviously, it's in Fairhaven. My uncle was a butter maker back in the day. I was 5 years old, and I was at this park more than once, so never knew that we didn't own it, that the county didn't own it. So, but I guess it works. So, Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's worked out quite well, being on the Parks Commission, and, same thing with Meeker County, working on Coronas Park. Oftentimes, those other counties, can benefit, from property that's in our county, and so we work out an agreement that works well for them. And actually, I was hoping we were going to make the visit to this park when we do our annual meeting, so maybe next year we'll get a chance to go down there and see the mill and visit this park, so, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Clark?
Somebody else might want to move it, but otherwise I will move approval. And you were talking about when you were 5, this was the first park that we ever brought our sons when they were preschoolers camping, and it was very interesting wheeling everything in since you can't drive in, which is good, but it is a wonderful park.
I'll second.
You moved it?
Yep.
Commissioner Persky, second it. Any further discussion? If not, we'll move to approve the joint powers agreement with Wright County. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, it's approved.
Thank you.
Issues by commissioners, who wants to start?
Thank you.
Commissioner Notch?
I'm assuming everybody got, and maybe you were going to bring this up, the Stearns History Museum on Thursday has their get the message out exhibit from 4 to 7. I think it's open, right? There's no registration fee or anything.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And then also got the notice of the library, basically hired a new executive director. They-
I brought it
Carol,
up
you're on there?
before.
Yep. So, yeah, congratulations to Brandy on that. I was gonna bring this up at the last meeting, and maybe this is a discussion for a work session, but, a couple of tri-county solid waste meetings ago, it was kind of a split vote on the 2% increase that Hope Douglas had wanted. So, one of the curiosities I've had, because I haven't been on it that long, is, why there's, a difference of opinion, which, is okay for each county to have. But I just thought, and I talked to Mike a little bit about it, as a discussion item, as where we as Stearns County sit when it comes to the whole tri-county and Hope Douglas. I think maybe a conversation on that topic is worthy too.
And I think that would be appropriate. Not to,
We don't have to do anything now, but
Right.
I mean,
I can tell you that from my perspective, on being both in the public side and now on the commission, is the biggest reason that is we've got 72% of what we deliver. So, and it seems to become more obvious that Sherburne County wants to make us do things that benefit them. Well, it'd be like us going out to dinner, let me pick the place if you're gonna buy it. I mean, sure, I'm gonna go to the most expensive place, so that's part of what's going on. But I think that's a good, 4 of us are on it, but I don't think it would be a bad discussion to have, so, yeah.
that's all I have.
Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, Steve, I've been on that commission since I came on board, and finding out how much money and politics are involved in waste is overwhelming, and it looks like a ball of string that's all kind of messed up, and boy, you pull one spot and it moves and it tightens up another, so yeah, ferreting it all out will be a challenge. I've got a couple things. First of all, I was in DC the previous week for NACO and then also for the area planning organization. In spite of the shutdown, was able to meet with both senators and with actually Stauber's office, Fishbach's office, and Emmer's office. And talking just transportation, it was encouraging at least perhaps to see where we might be going on transportation issues. And also, funding coming and moving forward. A little bit concerned, today's an election day. And so I want to make sure those folks that are in District 2 get out to vote, and everybody else
That's yours.
has an election.
Two is yours.
School district?
District
4.
District, well, they can, my district is 2, well, they can come and vote for me if
We
they
could
want.
do a special election, can we schedule that quick?
All right, District 4, yes, correct. But, it's unfortunate, though, that we hear noise about the problems with our election. And Randy, I want to just tell you, I want to applaud you for the work that your staff does and the way you conduct yourselves, being under the microscope all the time. And same thing with the League of Women Voters, the process that they do independently. And it's unfortunate that we hear criticism because, we don't hear the criticism from legitimate candidates. We don't hear the criticism from legitimate politicians. I believe even I heard Steve Simon say they did an audit on the last number of years, 14 million voters. And of that 14 million voters, there were only 3 non-citizens that they found that voted. So, again, I do think that our adversaries, Russian and Chinese regimes, like to see folks questioning our system and degrading our system, but I think we've got probably the best system in the world.
Okay, Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, a few things. Project Greenlight, I believe we're doing it this week. Is that correct, or is it next week, maybe?
I can't recall what week it is, but we are going to participate.
Yes. And I know Corey Baskey, our Veteran Services Director, was here earlier, looked to see green lights on our county buildings. I think we usually do the courthouse, well, the historic courthouse. We have many buildings. It's a good way for us to be acknowledging and recognizing our vets. It's something that's being done across the country. And veterans benefits are still coming out. The president found some ways to do that, which is good. Not sure how much longer, but want to thank our staff there. Commissioner Persky said you just had gotten back from DC. I'm going to be going in a couple weeks as part of the Rural Action Caucus fly-in. It's partially about the Farm Bill and a number of things that concern us, housing, food security, as we just talked about, a lot of the rural development. I have a feeling we'll be able to talk about transportation again, which is always good, so I'll be participating in that. Joe, thanks for bringing up the voting. District 742, you get to go to your normal location. And the really important District 4 election today. Want to thank the election judges as well as your staff. Some people, I think, are going to be fairly lonely today, so hopefully I will get proved wrong and that people will come out in droves, because these are both important positions. And then I guess lastly, because Stevie brought it up, there's actually going to be a coffee with the new executive director for the Great River Regional Library Board with Brandy on, I believe it's November 20th, so take a look out, and if you're able to go by, please do.
Speaking of District 4, I think some of you know, I did go see Commissioner Lenzmeyer a couple weeks ago. He seems to be doing well. He sends his wishes, so I think it's timely that I share that today on the special election. Today we had $22 million worth of claims paid. Again, I always like to kind of bring that up. Sales tax collections on the Justice Center are going well. We've collected $4.4 million to date. It's averaging about 1.1 per month, which was the estimate. I asked Sarah, and she gave me that update, so I think just so people know that that is happening and it is working. Yesterday, 3 of us were at the Transportation Alliance annual meeting in Wade Park. I've gone to that several times over the years, as have other members, and I think it's good to be there. Our former highway engineer, Jody, was there, so we got a chance to visit with her for a little bit. Last night, there was a daycare forum in Paynesville. They're working with a group that goes to communities to facilitate the discussion about daycare options, and I think it was extremely interesting. I did ask for our staff, one of our staff, to be there, and then the daycare provider community. And so that's an ongoing process. It's a year of trying to identify, options for daycare. I mean, in Paynesville, it blew me away. In the 56362 zip code, there's 168 need for childcare that are unfilled. And of course, employers want that addressed as much as employees, because if the employee can't get daycare, they can't work. And so there's certainly, and what we learned there, I think should be taken to other communities. And I think this group, I encourage them to work in other areas in Stearns County to establish some kind of understanding of that. The airport, I don't know where we're at with that. Maybe you can give us an update at some point, not now, but where we at with meeting, on that. And then Sherburne County made a request to all of us, and I'll bring it up. Mike asked somebody to bring it up at the commissioner items if we want to address that at a future meeting. They're asking us to join the Minnesota Rural Electric Association and the Minnesota Nuclear Energy Alliance in pursuing legislation that would repeal the moratorium on nuclear power generation. So I think that warrants a discussion. So don't know how you want to sort that out, Mike, other than I'm going to bring it up, and then do we want to have a discussion on it?
Yeah, it feels like it's out of our lane, but it's a request from another county, so I didn't feel comfortable putting it on the agenda without some, at least consensus from the board. Just to go back to the airport, I have a meeting. We thought we were going to get that concluded, the administrators could get that concluded in one meeting. It's going to take 2, and that's scheduled for Thursday, so hopefully we'll have something to you soon.
Commissioner Clark.
So on the item, there is a whole lot of work out there talking about a variety of types of energy and how counties participate or don't participate. And right now, that hasn't been a part of agenda items of any of our associations. It did come up at one of the more recent MICA board meetings. Commissioner Felder from Sherburne brought it up, and part of what had been talked about there in AMC is having, not for this session, but starting the discussion about what is available, the newer technologies, including with nuclear, et cetera. So I guess for me, a couple things is I'd say I argue for our county, it's a little different for them because they have a stake in it. It's not yet ripe, but maybe not for this session, but maybe by the next session. Talked to one of the commissioners yesterday, and there's certainly an array of other technologies they're interested in as well. And then the other piece they asked for literally was kind of signing on to something. And part of what we try to do with our broadly statewide is to not put names on things very often, like do a resolution or anything, because it diminishes it. CPA is really the main one that's been done. So there might be a question about how we do that, but I think it's something that's going to need more time. Joe and I participate in, it's kind of a weird name, but it's the Climate Smart Municipalities that is done in conjunction with the U of M and a bunch of communities in Germany. And their nuclear is part of it, and there's some possibilities that perhaps we could even get some more education for ourselves on if counties are going to start really going more specifically, not just from a land use standpoint, but actually getting into energy.
So you're saying not to talk about it?
I'm saying that I think it's not right what they're asking for, their specific request.
So I think we shouldn't, Harold thinks we should. I think because they're a neighbor and because we have so many joint powers boards with them and everything, rather than having the discussion here, it warrants having it on the agenda, and then we can decide if we want to go forward. So that's two of us. Commissioner Bursky?
You know, from a personal standpoint and the advocacy standpoint, I definitely want to hear the debate, the information to see which way we'd like to go. But I would think, too, like Mike says, as far as it being out of our lane, I think that is something that's probably out of our lane. That's something that the legislature should probably be dealing with because it would be a statewide issue as far as the impact. So, but by all means, I'm okay about hearing the information.
Commissioner Nash?
Yeah, and I would say, you know, your electric co-ops and, you know, all those utilities are gonna probably have that as one of their, you know, main items as well, because, you know, obviously it's gonna affect your distribution systems if you start running out of power. So, you know, I'm guessing that's why Minnesota Rural Electric is in on it, you know, because that's their AMC for the, like, you know, co-op utility world. So, I mean, if Sherburne wants to do a presentation, I guess I don't have a problem with that, but I don't think entering into anything at this point would be worthwhile.
I'm not understanding that, but might have it on the agenda or not.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't really see the point in it at this stage of the game either. I mean, it's a worthy discussion. It might be come back to AMC Environment and, you know, my policy committee that I'm on. That might be a discussion come December, you know, at that, because, you know, Sherburne County obviously has a rep in there too.
So I'm sensing that's a similar predicament for you, Mike. It's 2 and 2. Welcome to your world.
Yeah, thank you.
As far as the lanes go,
I mean,
3 years I've been
No,
here.
I think that there's three of us, Mr. Chair, that are saying we probably wouldn't take action on it right now. And they've been having conversations with all of us. It's not like,
And I'm not looking for action. I'm looking to have the discussion we're having at a board meeting rather than in the issue by
we're having
commissioner. But, yeah. So it sounds like it's 2 to 2.
Well, I mean, we can have it at a board meeting. It can be a no action item.
Yeah.
I just want to hear what they have to say.
right.
I think that's what you were looking for, a direction of
you know,
should we have it on the agenda? And as you said,
Yeah.
if they want to make the presentation, they can make the presentation, and then we can decide.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you know, if that would have come from anybody but another county or another governmental entity, I would have responded with our policy that it's out of our lane, because clearly I think, given how they asked us, it is, but but certainly we can hear them out. There's no problem with that.
So is that what I'm hearing then, that we're willing to hear them out?
Yeah.
Which would mean it would have to be put on an agenda,
Yeah.
Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I would suggest we have it on a work session, because it's not an action item at this point, and our meetings are supposed to be for action items. So if we're going to be having one anyways, we could have more of a discussion there. And I think all of us respect them, so that, to me, that's not a matter of respect, but, I mean, we could have a limited presentation there. I mean, I guess the question then I'd have is, are we going to bring in other presentations on other, I had somebody, a constituent, send something to me about a presentation that's coming up in a couple of Saturdays broadly about how we're getting to 2040, and are we going to start talking about this, and would other members want to go to this thing? So we just need to remember there's a lot of different things out there, including from some neighbors.
Yeah, and we can certainly, I don't think there's any rush to this necessarily.
No.
We can wait until after the AMC conference too, see if
Yeah.
anything develops
That's a
there.
good idea.
And we're
Yeah.
just beginning to do our legislative
That's a real good
priorities for you to consider too, so.
idea.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
something
would
will
ask that
come
you
out.
not put it on the work session again with the remote work. We don't want to do too many.
Right, it doesn't have to be on the same one.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, just related
Commissioner Persky.
to nuclear, but there are some exciting things also happening in nuclear. The fusion process has made some major breakthroughs within recent months, and that changes the whole ballgame, so we could be looking at some great sources of energy in the
And
future.
that's what we can hear then during that presentation. And as far as staying in your lane, I'm still dizzy about that, because I've been in the right lane, I've been in the left lane, I've been in both lanes outside of the driving lane, so I mean, we've been all over the place, so I'm not too concerned about that. So we're gonna recess the regular meeting. Mike, you're gonna tell us the votes closed session?
Yep, we're going to go into closed session, and we're still part of our meeting. As you know, we have the ability to enter into a closed session when we're considering the purchase or sale of real property, and in this case, we're looking at purchasing property, 2 parcels for the Jail Justice Center. And so, yes, we would ask that anybody that's not involved in that discussion to leave the room. It will be, and then we'll come back into open session and likely have 2 actions that the board will take, but then the meeting will conclude.
Okay, so I'll recess our regular meeting. We'll take a 5-minute restroom break, and then we'll come back.
Is it out, somebody take it down?
Way to go, Steve.
I knew they always put it on there.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're back on, the sun's out the door, boy, we're rocking and rolling. Okay, so I've reconvened the public, our public board meeting. Kevin, the first motion that we're going to act on?
So the first motion I am asking the board to act on is the purchase of 2 properties currently in St. Joseph Township. The first property would be property ID number 3120810.000, approximately 45.54 acres, for a sale price of $1.5 million. That would be the first property. The second property would be in the same area, property ID 20803.000, approximately 30.77 acres, for a price of $1.2 million to close in the calendar year 2025.
Is it 4 zeros at the end? I think the other one you said 3 too.
Sorry.
Just for clarification.
After Steve broke the handle off the water pitcher, he's really on it now.
Oh, yeah, I got a handle on it now.
Commissioner Clark,
I'll move approval of the purchase of the 2 properties that Mr. Cornick just read us.
I'll second that motion.
motion's been made by Commissioner Clark, seconded by Commissioner Persky to purchase the 2 properties. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Second item,
The second item is to authorize staff to enter into a wetland reservation agreement for the replacement of 2.08 acres of wetland on the construction site. So this agreement would allow us to go before the Wetland Rules Committee for final approval of our wetland replacement plan. We are proposing to purchase 4.16 acres of fresh wet meadow wetlands from Fox Haven Farms located here in Stearns County within the credit area number 7. We have received a quote from that property, including the state withdrawal fee and the state easement stewardship fee to be paid by us, the buyer, for a total of $343.04.
okay. So a motion would be in order in that. Commissioner
I'll
Notch?
move approval. of the
Second.
wetland.
Commissioner Notch moves approval, Commissioner Clark seconds it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. And with that, we're done. Meeting adjourned.
Test, test, test. Test. Test, 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 test.
Check, 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 check. Check, mic check, check, check. Hello, hello, hello. No? You talk, let me see if I hear you. I know what it sounds like.
Some kids have funsies. Checkity check yourself before you wreck yourself. Check yourself, check.
It's not clear, but the buzzing isn't constant right now.
Okay, but then I bet when it's constantly open, then it's as long as there's it's because it's trying to open. I bet you hear it if there's like music playing in the presentation laptop.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, nobody investigated, is it speaker, you know?
I don't, it's not speaker,
Okay, so no.
because we hear it in the recording.
Oh. So we try the presentation, Jake?
Yeah, let's try that. I'll just play a video or something.